In the sport of MMA, you're only as good as your last fight, you're only as funny as your last punchline, and you're only as liked as your last deep warrants. At times it's unfair, but sometimes it makes sense. You could be at the top of the mountain and take a couple missteps and fall off. Well, this wasn't the case for Jorge Masvidal, because he plunged himself headfirst off that mountain. From superstardom to irrelevance, this is the downfall of Jorge Masvidal. In 2016, you may not have known who Jorge Masvidal was, but by 2019, you couldn't scroll through Twitter without seeing the man. He went from your average long-standing UFC fighter with little to no following, to having every 16-year-old beating up their little brother and saying it was super necessary. So, how did George go from the face of the UFC for some time, to a fighter people could go without seeing? Well, let's first take a look at Masvidal's rise to fame. In 2017, Masvidal would fight 3 times, losing 2 out of 3 fights via decisions to Damian Maia and Stephen Thompson, and picking up 1 solid TKO win against everyone's favorite journeyman, Donald Cowboy Cerrone. He would then take a 16-month break after taking his second loss in a row via the hands of Stephen Thompson, and he would come back sporting a new look. With a beard as big as my forehead and hair as long as my deleted search history, Masvidal would return looking like a modern-day caveman. He would make his return to the octagon on March 16, 2019 to face the popular prospect Darren Till in a fight where Masvidal would get sat down, but then he'd quickly figure out Till's striking patterns enough to get the second round KO. This win would gain Masvidal his second ever fight of the night and third performance of the night bonus. The Darren Till fight brought a lot of newfound attention to Masvidal, and even casuals were beginning to know who Masvidal is. With newfound attention from his win against Till, fans also caught wind of an altercation between Masvidal and then contender, current welterweight champion Leon Edwards. Apparently, the two met backstage, words were exchanged, Leon approached Masvidal, and he got a free meal for his troubles? I'll let Masvidal explain it.
So I had to give him the 3-piece with the soda. Well, initially, I was doing my interview, and he's crossing by, and he's with his corner man, and I don't know if this guy consumes a lot of drugs or what, that he thought that that would intimidate him. He was walking like this, looking at me and like pacing back and forth, and I'm trying to do my interview, you know? And he asked me something about a date, and I say maybe, maybe not. And then he tells me to shut up. You know, we're everybody watching this back home from Miami was like, you should have punched him as soon as he asked you a question while you're interviewed, because that's my natural instinct. You know, if you're getting interviewed and some idiot comes here and cuts your interview off, bro, you should get punched or slapped upside your head, you know? That'll teach you respect not to do it to nobody else again. I should have immediately done it, but I didn't. I answered his question politely. Maybe, maybe not. He goes on to say, shut up after that. I can't take that. My daughter might be watching this interview. I've been telling her, stand up to bullies your whole life. Don't go running to somebody and telling them, oh, so-and-so is picking on me. Handle it yourself. That's what's wrong with this country, I think, with this whole, if somebody picks on you, go tell somebody else. I'm not going to tell authorities this hooligan's picking on me. I'm going to handle it myself, you know?
This incident only added to Masvidal's reputation where fans adored him. And how could you blame them? He didn't have planned out scripted responses that he rattled off every time a question or insult was thrown his way. He didn't force anything like others did. He just seemed like an authentic G that meant what he said and wasn't afraid to put a case of the beats on someone if they got too close. Of course fans loved him. I mean, look at him. If I don't care about all that extra was a person, it was Jorge Masvidal. Then it was announced. On July 6, 2019 at UFC 239, Masvidal would face off against the fan favorite Ben Funky Askren. These two did not like each other, and it led to priceless back and forths between the two polar opposites. On one end you have Masvidal, the stoic street thug who doesn't like all the back and forth and just wants to fight. And then you have Askren, the witty, well-spoken, goofy-looking wrestler who relishes in making fun of their opponents. And a lot of fun was made at the expense of Jorge Masvidal. A lot.
I heard him say in that interview, I caught the last bit of it, that he wanted a money fight. Listen, I'm the biggest money fight you can get right now. He said that I was just there for social media and he wants to move towards the title. I'm ranked 5 spots ahead of you, Jorge.
I think he's going to puff his chest out, yell and scream and act like a madman and probably threaten me of some sort. And you know what I don't understand about the whole thing is, aside to fight you in a cage, like there's a couple rules, but there's not a whole lot of rules. And so how you're yelling and threats, I think it's going to make it worse for me. I can't comprehend that.
They need to keep the idiot away from me. I mean, I'm paid to fight in the octagon, and we can do it for 15 minutes, and I don't want any chances that he's gonna do something stupid before the fight and ruin it.
He can punch me all he wants in that 15 minutes, and if he has so little control over his own emotional state, then I'll give him his space. That's fine. UFC 239 will be full and utter domination by me.
How do you beat him?
Any way I want.
How do you think?
I dominate him whole time.
Finish him?
Possibly. Can't guarantee that.
So with the hype at its highest, with everyone watching, it was finally time for this grudge match to ensue. And you probably already know how this fight went. A knee about 3 seconds into the fight would floor Askren as he shot a takedown in the beginning of the fight. Askren didn't even have a chance. His unconscious body would fall to the canvas, and Masvidal would hit him with 2 extra massive shots while he laid unconscious, famously going on an interview to say that these shots were super necessary.
I saw some criticism. People say the punches weren't really necessary. Maybe
They were super necessary.
This would skyrocket Masvidal into superstardom. After all the talk, after all the disrespect, he would pick up the fastest knockout in UFC history and arguably one of the biggest grudge matches of all time. A year prior, not many knew who Masvidal was, but now everyone was talking about George. Masvidal would take this newfound fame and run with it, signing an 8-fight contract with the UFC and opting to face a fan favorite in Nate Diaz. This was obviously a cash grab from both the fighters and the promotion, but nobody cared. 2 bad dudes were about to go at it for 5 rounds for a newly created BMF title. So, on November 2nd, 2019, Masvidal would face off against Diaz for the BMF title. Masvidal would dominate Diaz, winning every round convincingly and battering the veteran's face. He busted up Diaz so bad that the doctors had to step in and stop the fight between rounds 3 and 4. Some fans disagreed with the decision, but it didn't make a difference because Nate was getting butchered. The new BMF was crowned, and Masvidal looked to be the face of the UFC. Now, this is where it gets a little grim for Masvidal. Up to this point, I have only highlighted the events that have made Masvidal famous, but if you don't like unhappy endings, now would be a good time to click off the video. You gone? Okay, let's get to the events that directly led to the downfall of George Masvidal. Well, it's no longer 2019. Happier isn't the song everyone's listening to, Shape of You's been overplayed, and George Masvidal is finally getting a title shot. On July 5th of 2020, George Masvidal would step in on short notice for Gilbert Burns to face then champion Kamaru Usman. And he got dominated. Like prom night when Masvidal would lose every round on every scorecard, losing 50-45, 50-45, and 49-46. I don't know what that last judge was watching. Anyways, after that, in 2020, Masvidal did nothing. Literally nothing. After the gigantic year that was 2019 for Masvidal, George would lose to Usman and do nothing for the rest of the year. And no, COVID wasn't a factor, he didn't get any major surgeries, nothing like that. He just lost and went radio silent. So 2020 wasn't the best year for the BMF. Now on to 2021. Masvidal would face Usman again because Masvidal's excuse for losing the first fight was that he had less than a week to train to face Kamaru Usman, but it later came out that Masvidal had been training for Usman for months. Regardless, the stage was set, and on April 24th, 2021, Masvidal would fight Usman again for the title. And drumroll please, he got absolutely and utterly computer peopled. I had to invent a new saying because that's how hard he hit George. Usman said, "Bam!" And Masvidal's face changed from on to off to dark pixelation, effectively taking his credibility and his BMF title simultaneously. Credit to Masvidal because unlike the last time he lost, he actually tried to maintain relevance by fighting Leon Edwards on December 11, 2011. But this fight was scrapped due to Masvidal being injured and having to pull out. Though the intent to fight was there, the result was still the same. 2 fights in 2 years with 2 losses. Are you starting to see a trend here? In 2019, Masvidal was more than just active, and he seemed like the likable protagonist of the UFC. He gained lots of fans, lots of money, a belt literally made for him, and he was even put on the cover of EA Sports UFC 4 alongside then middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. He was so famous that he was put on the company's video game, and he didn't even have a title, and he's never won a title. He's the BMF champion? Yeah, shut up. He went from the BMF, someone the fans completely loved, to being completely irrelevant. It wasn't because of a loss, it wasn't because of something he said, he just didn't fight. People have this imaginary idea in their heads that they can go long stretches of time without fighting, especially after a loss, and still be relevant. They think they're Nate Diaz or Conor McGregor when it's just not the case. Instead of waiting years, 2 years basically, to fight the same guy twice and lose to him both times, Masvidal could have fought Stephen Thompson, he could have fought Vicente Luque, he could have fought anybody else in the meantime. It didn't matter because he was so famous. But he made a decision to wait on Kamaru Usman and lost both times. So because of a lack of relevance, a lack of seeing the guy, and the only time you're really seeing this guy now, he's losing, of course, his relevance and his image just diminished. But Masvidal made the conscious decision to wait to fight Usman, and he lost credibility for it because no one saw him getting completely flatlined coming. No one saw him losing that bad coming, right? No one thought he would get knocked out. So what's next for Masvidal? He hasn't won since 2019, so what's next? Maybe he'll fight an up-and-coming contender. He'll get like a tune-up fight and get some flashy KO to restore this BMF aura or his image, right? No, not at all. He was going to fight someone that's arguably a worse matchup for him than Usman was in Colby Covington. And these guys did not like each other.
Kobe's a They offered him good money. And then the Kobe deal was that we already knew we had the Usman fight. You know, they had already told me, hey, you have the Usman fight. So why am I gonna fight the second place guy that got his jaw broken, left running out of the ring, didn't talk for months on Twitter because he got his jaw broken? Why don't I go fight the guy that broke his jaw? Because I've already been beating the crap out of Kobe for God knows how long. I'm gonna beat the crap out of him too before my career's done. But I'm gonna fight the biggest and the best fights possible. Then I'll come down to these JV motherfuckers, you know? I'm gonna go get this title. I'm gonna keep generating more views, more knockouts, more violence, and then I'm gonna take it out on Kobe at some point, as long as he could win though, you know? If he could win, he's dead. Fight night, nothing's personal, man, and still nothing is personal. This is as close as it gets to personal. There's one individual that I'm gonna break his face shortly. Not only do I fight for a living and I get to punch people in the face, but every once in a while I get to punch somebody in the face that I really don't like, and I get paid for it. So on that end, I love it, you know, that he's like the worst selling pay-per-view performer in the whole division, and I'm gonna just upcrease his namesake, you know. But at the same time, I'm gonna send him to the hospital, Ben Askren style. So what's it good? And anyways, he doesn't get pay-per-views, so it's really like a lose-lose. He's gonna get his flat fee and all that, but he doesn't get pay-per-views. So it's like 3 times, you know.
Jorge, has there ever been a time in your career where you fought someone that you used to be friends with and you are now a bitter rival of?
I wouldn't say bitter rival. This guy's a bitch, man. Fucking bitch. And you got that mad herpes, you fucking bitch. Dick sniffing ass bitch.
Tomorrow, I'm sending him to the electric chair. I'm gonna flip the switch and fry his bum ass and electrify T-Mobile Arena like it's never been electrified before.
After all the talking, all the media, all the drama, after everything, it was time. And on March 5th, 2022, Masvidal would face off against his former friend Colby Covington. And Masvidal would beat Covington, beating the villain of the welterweight division, getting his storybook ending. Not really, actually. Colby Covington dominated Jorge Masvidal, beating him bell to bell, except for one instance where Jorge Masvidal sat Covington down. But other than that, he got absolutely outclassed, absolutely beat up by Colby Covington, and Masvidal kind of reminded us why he wasn't the BMF anymore. Masvidal would then later go on to further shatter his image as the BMF when he would go and sneak attack Colby Covington while he was eating with his friends at a restaurant.
A local MMA fighter now under criminal investigation after cops say he was caught on camera attacking another MMA star at a Miami Beach hotspot. And we're now hearing exclusively from a witness to that dust-up. Local 10's Rosh Lowe is live with a video now gone viral. Rosh.
We also just got video exclusively to Local 10, which could be very important in this case. And let me explain why. You'll see in a moment. It is grainy video, but at issue here was Colby Covington ambushed? When this story first happened, people may have said, what was this? Was it a publicity stunt? I can tell you, we have spoken to Miami Beach police, and they are taking this very seriously. That is UFC superstar Colby Covington nursing a broken tooth outside of Poppy Steak on South Beach, according to eyewitnesses. Adam Weiss tells us what he saw.
One guy clocked him about 3 or 4 times in the face. Amazing that what stood out right away was how he didn't even go down.
In this exclusive video from Poppy Steak, just into Local 10, this witness says you can see Covington leave the restaurant when he is ambushed.
I think he was hit by Jorge, and then looked like there were 5 of his buddies around him.
Let's watch again. This video shows the aftermath. Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington, but this time it wasn't in the ring. According to a Miami Beach police report, the victim said he was leaving the steakhouse when he was attacked by Masvidal, who he says punched him with a closed fist twice in the face, fracturing a tooth. Masvidal took to social media and posted the following.
Call this show your face challenge. You know, what's up? I'm from Dade County. You talk to you gotta back it up. That's how my city rolls, man.
They were once friends and now enemies. Covington out-wrestled Masvidal earlier this month. Miami Beach police saying the case is under criminal investigation. The victim told cops Masvidal was wearing, quote, a hoodie raised over his head and sweatpants. He stated that he was able to identify Mr. Masvidal by the sound of his voice and by looking at the upper half of Mr. Masvidal's face to include his long curly hair sticking out of the hoodie. So what's next? Police say they are actively investigating the case and reviewing surveillance footage.
We fell in love with Masvidal because he was some authentic G who didn't do all the back and forth and didn't need to stick to gimmicks or say scripted responses. He would hit you if you got too close, and he would definitely defend himself, but this wasn't the Masvidal that we fell in love with. The guy even went on Twitter to brag about sneak attacking Colby Covington in a tweet that's deleted now. I wonder why, but this wasn't the guy that fans fell in love with. This was a sad, angry, and jealous diva who was so sore from losing that he had to go and sneak attack someone while they were eating at a restaurant because they could barely land a punch in the 25 minutes that they had. If anyone still thought Masvidal was cool or admirable, it was settled, because nothing's less admirable than a sore loser. As for Masvidal's career after this, since he sneak attacked Colby Covington, he hasn't fought anybody, but I gotta give it to Masvidal because he was way more active in 2022 than he was in 2021 and 2020. Not only did he fight once and lose physically in the octagon, but he also fought a second time in a restaurant and lost morally. So I gotta give props to Jorge Masvidal. He's in talks for fights now, so we'll see if he gets another fight in the octagon. But as for now, he hasn't had any other fight. This guy is in his late 30s, and he doesn't have too many favorable matchups in the welterweight division. I see him having a few more fights and then being done. I feel like Masvidal did a lot in his career in 2019, but he missed his opportunity, opting to sit out and take stylistically terrible matchups. Who knows how big this guy could have gotten if he, instead of waiting for Usman, would have fought some other guys or would have taken some other money fights or some other huge fights. But he's made his mind up. And you can't take too much away from him in that instance because, you know, he wants to be champion. But I feel like he wasted a lot of his potential, a lot of his time, a lot of his airtime that he could have spent doing great things, getting beat up and looking like a sore loser. So that's that for Jorge Masvidal. Let me know what you guys think. This is the part of the video where I kind of go off script. Obviously, leave a like if you guys enjoyed this and subscribe up if you want more videos like this. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. I said in the beginning that it wasn't really anything he did or said, but obviously him sneak attacking Colby Covington, that definitely added to it. And I guess his inaction is kind of an action because it was a conscious decision made by him to not fight much. He couldn't do much about the Leon Edwards situation, but still, I feel like he could have fought a lot of other people, but he wanted to wait for Usman and then, you know, obviously fight Colby Covington. You know, you got to give it to the guy. He had a really long career and he made a lot out of it in a certain, you know, short span of time. But I feel like he took that 16 months off between 2017 and 2019, and he had a monumental year in 2019. So maybe he equivocated time off with coming back and being great and being super relevant, but that's just not the case. You know, not everyone can be like a Conor or a Nate and get away with that. But yeah, that's it for the downfall of Jorge Masvidal. You let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm sorry I'm stuttering so much. This is just me without a script. Thank you guys so much. It's your boy T-Dog, and I'm out.